Why is a massive U.S. fleet here? To understand this, let's rewind to World War II. Iran was ruled by Reza Shah Pahlavi. He tried balancing between big global superpowers. Britain wanted oil, the Soviets wanted influence. Then Nazi Germany entered the geopolitical chat. Hitler saw Iran as a strategic base. The Allied forces were not having that. Britain and the USSR invaded Iran together. They quickly kicked the old Shah out and installed his young son to rule, a compliant new Shah for the Allies. Fast forward to years after the war. Soviets left under heavy international diplomatic pressure, but British companies kept pumping Iranian oil, taking almost all of the massive profits. The Iranian people got a terrible deal. Enter Prime Minister Mohammad Mossadegh right now. He declared this oil belongs to Iran. He boldly nationalized the entire oil industry. The British government was absolutely furious today. They launched a massive global oil boycott. Suddenly, no one could buy Iranian oil. Iran's fragile economy crashed incredibly hard fast. Desperate, Mossadegh asked the U.S. for help, but the U.S. sided with British allies. They feared Iran might turn communist soon, so the CIA hatched a secret plan. Operation Ajax was finally ready to go. They funded protests and bribed key officials. A military coup violently overthrew Prime Minister. The young Shah was given absolute power. American and British oil companies happily returned. The Shah rapidly modernized Iran with oil. Tehran became a trendy, highly westernized city. Wild parties, high fashion, and luxury cars. But this newfound wealth was for elites. Most regular Iranian citizens remained very poor. The Shah's brutal secret police were watching. Any political dissent was crushed without mercy. Intense public anger bubbled beneath the surface. Religious leaders spoke fiercely against rapid westernization. Ayatollah Khomeini became the ultimate vocal symbol. He sent passionate religious sermons from exile. Smuggled cassette tapes sparked a national revolution. Millions of angry Iranians took to streets. The Shah's regime collapsed under the pressure. He fled the country in 1979. Khomeini returned to a massive hero's welcome. Iran officially became a strict Islamic republic. Anti-American sentiment became new government policy. The United States was branded Great Satan. Then came the shocking American hostage crisis. Radical students violently stormed the U.S. Embassy. They held 52 American citizens hostage. The terrifying ordeal lasted 400 days. President Carter attempted a daring rescue mission. Top-secret Operation Eagle Claw was disaster. U.S. helicopters crashed in a blinding sandstorm. The United States looked weak on stage. This humiliating failure ruined Carter's re-election chances. The American hostages were finally released safely, but the diplomatic damage was permanently done. Iran and the U.S. were bitter enemies. A brand new military threat emerged next. Dictator Saddam Hussein launched a massive invasion. He desperately wanted their valuable oil regions. The Iran-Iraq War was incredibly brutal. It lasted for 8 long, bloody years. The U.S. secretly supported Saddam Hussein then, providing critical military intelligence and tactical assistance. But global geopolitics is always incredibly messy. The U.S. also secretly sold advanced weapons to illegally fund right-wing rebel groups. The infamous Iran-Contra political scandal exploded.
Mutual diplomatic trust was completely non-existent. In '88, a horrific tragedy struck. A U.S. warship accidentally shot down an airliner. 290 innocent civilians were killed. The U.S. officially called it tragic mistake, but the Iranian government sought deliberate cold murder. The devastating war with Iraq finally ended stalemate, but the global Cold War was wrapping up, a brand new unipolar world order taking shape. The United States became sole, uncontested military superpower, and Iran remained a highly defiant political outlier. In the early 2000s, diplomatic tensions escalated. President George Bush named Iran an Axis evil. Iran's highly secretive nuclear program alarmed Western leaders. Were they secretly trying to build nuclear bomb? The U.S. quickly imposed crippling heavy economic sanctions. Iran's fragile economy suffered from massive hyperinflation, but the Iranian government absolutely refused to yield. They expanded their political influence across entire region, secretly funding armed proxy groups in neighboring countries. Hezbollah in Lebanon became major, heavily armed force. Hamas in Gaza received significant financial military support, and later the Houthi rebel movement was backed. Iran successfully built massive interconnected network of regional allies. The so-called Axis of Resistance was born. A dangerous shadow war played out everywhere across the Media. It involved complex cyber attacks and covert sabotage. Israel and Iran became most bitter sworn enemies. The narrow Strait of Hormuz became a volatile flashpoint. It is critical narrow waterway for global shipping. Iran frequently threatened to completely close it down, which would instantly instantly crash entire global economic system. In 2015, a major diplomatic breakthrough happened. The historic Iran nuclear deal was officially signed. Harsh sanctions were lifted for strict nuclear limits. It briefly seemed like a brand new era, but unfortunately, that fragile peace did not last. President Donald Trump abruptly pulled out of the deal. He immediately imposed harsh maximum pressure sanctions campaign. Iran's struggling economy nosedived once again into recession. They quickly restarted their controversial uranium enrichment program. Regional military tensions quickly reached absolute boiling point. In 2020, the U.S. assassinated top general. General Qasem Soleimani was killed by drone strike. Iran fiercely retaliated with massive ballistic missile strikes. The entire region teetered dangerously on brink of war. Today, this tense geopolitical standoff continues endlessly without. Iran is reportedly closer than ever to weapon. The U.S. still maintains very heavy military presence. Harsh economic sanctions keep regular Iranian people struggling. Massive public protests frequently erupt inside Iranian cities. Angry citizens demand basic freedom and better conditions, but the ruling regime remains firmly, violently entrenched. It is a highly complex, incredibly dangerous chess game, fueled by many decades of extreme bad blood. Neither side truly wants devastating full-scale war, but absolutely neither side wants to look weak. One tiny miscalculation could easily trigger catastrophic conflict. The U.S. naval fleet watches the situation incredibly closely. Iran's ballistic missiles are always armed, ready launch. The entire Middle East constantly holds collective breath. Global oil markets react wildly to military rumor. It is dark legacy of foreign interventions and revolutions. A history full of military coups and proxy battles. A perfect textbook example of extreme geopolitical blowback. Every single political action creates fierce counterreaction, from the Shah's glittering, incredibly expensive royal parties to the dusty, protest-filled streets of modern Tehran. This complicated, bloody history is entirely written in oil, and it is paid for with human conflict. Can international diplomacy ever truly fix this mess, or are these nations simply doomed to repeat history? The global stakes could not possibly be higher for the Middle Eastern region and entire world. The United States and Iran currently remain locked in an endless, highly destructive cycle of political hostility, a bitter rivalry that completely shapes modern history. Understanding the complex past is the absolute only way to make any sense of the chaotic, dangerous present. It is definitely not just a story about good. It is entirely about raw power and valuable resources, a grand, high-stakes strategy game, real lives. So the very next time you watch the news, always remember the incredibly long and bloody road that led here, because history is always watching and never forgets.